So I'm a bit of an anomaly. I live in Atlanta, but I spent 3 years in San Francisco with Salesforce and then moved back. My kids live here. So I also happen to go to Auburn. For any of you Georgia fans in the room, don't hate me yet. Yeah, War Eagle, rough year. So we're going to talk about some of the opportunities we've seen to learn from the social paradigm and how to apply some of those things to employee social networks and actual morale and rewarding employees and looking at what that looks like internally. I'm going to quickly talk about what we do. Salesforce since 1999 has been an evangelist for cloud computing. We see this trend shifting from the mainframes to the client server to what is now cloud computing, and all of us are users of some form or fashion of this technology, and most of the partners and presenters we've seen are delivering their service today in this model, whether it's on our platform or on something like Amazon or Google's App Engine or something else. So the concept of enterprise cloud computing is nothing new, but it is where we've been focused for the last 13 years. Because of our focus and our relentless pursuit of being a champion for this no software kind of cloud computing model, we are the #1 CRM product and #1 cloud computing, enterprise cloud computing provider, according to IDC and Gartner and all these analysts. And one of my favorite things to tell people is that about our company, that one of the things I'm most proud of is that Forbes issued a most innovative companies list. They have the richest list, they have the philanthropic list, they have a most innovative companies list based on the Innovator's Dilemma authors' writing and model. And 2 years in a row now, 2011 and 12, Salesforce was ranked #1. And that's a pretty substantial accomplishment for a company that's been around as long as we have. There's a lot of opportunities to learn from companies that we acquire. The conversation earlier mentioned about the acquisition Salesforce made of a company. I forget who's made the comment. But we bring those folks in and we learn a lot from them, and we continue to accelerate innovation on behalf of our customers. So we're going to talk, though, about what social has done to the company internally. So we all kind of go about our business and our lives benefiting from social in a variety of ways: Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it. And then we get to work and it doesn't work like that, right? And we don't have the same ability to connect with our peers and understand what our peers are up to and how they interact with each other. I think it was T.A. McCann earlier today that mentioned I know you because you just went to Hawaii, or I know you because you just had a kid. But when I get to work, how do I know what my coworkers are doing? How do I know what volunteer activities I should engage in? How does the company know that about me? And there's a lot of opportunities for us to look at ways social expectations set for us individually can translate into social behavior at work. The first one is taking advantage of what we know is true, which is this social revolution. There's something like 150 million daily conversations happening about companies. This is being driven by people that work where you work and people like you and I. 4.5 billion social users. The growth here is staggering. Anybody have a Facebook account in 2009? So most of us, okay. I asked that question in Minneapolis, and I got to 2011 and nobody's hand had been raised. So I guess it's an audience geographic thing. But the amazing is now, how many people in here know someone that doesn't have a Facebook? And if you do, the reason that they don't is probably very specific, right? They have some reason for not doing it. Or if they don't have a LinkedIn account, or if they don't have a Twitter, everybody has some social presence of some kind. And the reason for that is what they get from it, right? You don't become a social animal, if you will, just because you like to produce content, although there are people that do that. For the most part, we do something because we get something back. And that's the expectation that people have. And that's what's driven a lot of the social expectations inside of the company. So 2 things I'm going to talk about around what we've learned from social, how to apply that at work. And then my colleague Tricia Gelman, who's here from San Francisco, is going to talk about some other aspects of this in the next session after the break. Connecting and rewarding. So anybody in here put somebody on a plan? Like, this person was not performing, they have to be managed out of the business. Okay, so it's not a fun thing to do. I'm not going to ask this question. Has anybody ever been put on a plan? That's not a good one. But has anybody ever been promoted? Okay, so we treat these things differently. We get promoted and everything's good, and we don't like to necessarily wave our hand and say we were, but we put people on plans and it's all bad. And the difference between a plan and a promotion is what? The promotion just happened because you did good work, but nobody got promoted because they executed against a set of objectives that everyone knew about. That's not typical, right? A plan is a set of objectives people set up and create to make sure that you get managed out of the business, but it's very specific. You could actually achieve the objective set up in a plan, couldn't you? So the problem we have, is that we manage bad behavior very, very specifically and closely with things like performance plans. But we don't manage good behavior. We don't set objectives. And I think it was John Ferrara that said, we think about there's too many things going on. It's too complex. And we need to get back to basics and focus on the objectives. And that's what we're going to talk about right now regarding to connecting and rewarding. So the first one is connecting. An organizational structure of old is no longer behaves the way that our social expectations have created in our minds for the world to work, right? I go out in the world and I can connect with anybody. I can follow Dennis Pombriant on Twitter. I can follow Carolina Grimm on Twitter. I can follow Mark Benioff on Twitter. I can understand what he's thinking and saying and doing. And then I get to work, and how do I know what my CEO is thinking? How do I know what my VP of Finance is doing or wants me to be doing? And there's really, unless I work for that person, there's no direct way for me to have insight into that, right? How many all-hands calls can you do before you finally, after 3 months, feel disconnected again? True? And if you're a remote employee, it's worse, right? So the idea is how to connect people to each other all the way up the stack and remove those silos and remove those pillars. And with products like Chatter, you do that. You connect every person with everyone else and everything. So I am connected to Mark Benioff. I do know what Carolina is up to. People can see where I am, that I'm at the Social Business Conference in Atlanta today. They can see the presentation that you're looking at right now. Anyone in my company can look at it. So if somebody's about to go do the same thing with Brent in another city in 2 weeks, they have this content, they can go execute that. That kind of transparency and connectivity is the tissue that is created in the lessons we learn from the social world. So what's that look like in the real world? This is me. On the left-hand side, I posted this Chatter post. We use Chatter. We're our own biggest customer. And it was a Virgin America article about the fact that Virgin replaced an intranet with Chatter, and their employees loved it. That's what it says, in case you can't read it. It was an article in Site World. Virgin replaces their ancient intranet, and their employees love it. And you see a bunch of employees liked it, and some people commented and shared it, so that's already connected and sharing and transparency. But you go over here, and this is Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce.com's profile, and he shared my post that says originally posted by Nate Skinner the next day. And now more people are commenting, and more people have liked it. He got a couple more likes than me. I'm not sure why that is. But the connective tissue there, if you're in a small company and you have 100 or 200 or 300 employees, as the CEO, does someone on the line, your sales reps, your technical support, do they know what you're doing and what you're thinking, or what you think is most important at any given moment in time? In this case, no one has to wonder if Mark thinks that's an important article for us all to be aware of, that Virgin thinks Chatter is better than their intranet. And everyone can see it. So that's just an example of what that connective tissue can bring inside of a company. So we connect everyone to everything. It connects experts, people that you don't even know. What's the old world way of doing this? Hey, Brent, do you know somebody that knows SharePoint? Actually, no, Nate. Hold on. Let me ask Dennis. Hey, Dennis, do you know some? No, I don't know. And guess what? 2, 3, 4 days from now, I finally find somebody that used to know something about SharePoint, right? In the world that we've come to know in Twitter and Facebook and Google searches and LinkedIn, we can find an expert like that. That was not very good. Still not very good. The idea being that what this product and this kind of technology in your company can do is connect people to experts instantaneously. And it removes the need to kind of send, wait, and receive, right? That signal transformation. Instead, you send, and instantly people can kind of crowdsource responses for you. And that changes the game. And what we see is 34% increased employee productivity. That's this metric down on the lower right side. People get more done faster when you do things like collaborate and break down silos internally. Okay? So the Cake Boss saw the same results, actually better than what we see with our metrics across our customer base. But this guy went on, what was it, Tricia, the Learning Channel? Learning Channel. Has everybody heard of the Cake Boss? Okay. Something happens to you when you go on TV, right? All of a sudden, everybody wants a cannoli. And so They went on TV, and now the demand was overwhelming, so he had to do something about that, and he instituted or set up Chatter for his company and his employees and his partners, and they are delivering in a volume that he could have never delivered before, 60% more productivity through collaboration, the Cake Boss, just as an example. I'm going to go quickly, by the way. I may break the record for the fastest presentation, so I know we're a little behind. Yeah. It's not 5 o'clock yet, but it's, okay. So reward. Let's talk about reward and alignment. And again, back to the questions earlier about being on a performance plan or being promoted. Has anybody left a job they had because they made too much money? No. But you've left because some other job didn't pay any more money, right? Like they'll match your pay. You've left a job that was paying you just fine that you probably could have never been fired from. You could have sat there and been a VIP. You know what a VIP is? Vest in peace. You could have been a vest in peacer, and no one would have ever touched you at that company that you used to work for, but you left anyways. And the reasons for that, it's all psychological. It's never because it's not enough money. It's never because, the company is dying. I mean, those reasons exist, and people move because of things like that. I have in my life too. But most people leave for things that you can't measure and you can't see. And we're going to talk about some of the ways to kind of bring visibility to those things and put people in a place where they can feel like they're tied into something bigger than just themselves, okay? So misalignment, demotivation, these things cost lots of money and time. This productivity, this Gallup poll said 300 billion lost in productivity. That's a big number if you're a small business. That actually, the fact is, that number as a percentage of your equivalent GDP, if you will, if you're a 100-person company and you lose 1 or 2 out of 5 or 7 sales reps, that productivity loss is huge to you, right? $300 billion in productivity loss, we lose that every day in Congress. But at your company, 150 people, this is a big deal. And how do you even know? How do you know that they're not being productive? There's certain jobs where it's measurable. Did you meet your revenue goals? If you're a salesperson, you can easily measure. But how do you measure marketing? How do you measure HR? Is it just hires? Is it fires? Is it both? How do you measure PR and AR? There's lots of different jobs and functions that it's much less clear what success and alignment really means. And so you guys have all seen these stats before, right? 97% of employees leave because they're not engaged, or they do something because they're not engaged. Or the one I love is the actively disengaged. These are the people that go around the water cooler while you're trying to create a culture and tell everybody how much it sucks here, right? That's actually worse than people that are just kind of tired of being at your company. So that doesn't matter. Here's the question. Do you know at your company right now how many of your employees are engaged? If that pie chart represents your company, can you fill it out? The answer is probably not, because there's no way for us to know. We're getting promoted or we're being put on a plan, and there's no kind of middle ground. There's no other option, right? So people want to work on things that matter. They want to align themselves. They'll take it upon themselves to be aligned if you give them the mechanism by which to do so. And that's what we do with work.com. We give people visibility inside of a company to see the objectives that matter, to see the objectives that matter to me, to my boss's boss, my peers, and let them sign up for stuff. Yes, I'm a sales rep, and yes, the number matters, but I'm a huge humanitarian. I want to sign up for a volunteer activity. I want to go to New York and help Hurricane Sandy victims. There's things I want to do that make me more whole, that make me less likely to what? Leave, right? Because I can sell software anywhere, but I can't feel full and 100% as a human if I don't have visibility into lots of other things that make me happy. And so that's what this is all about. We see a 10x improvement in understanding of goals and alignment of people to things that they can sign up for, measure themselves against, and as well as see into other people's objectives, which is a huge step forward for a lot of companies, especially when I did this in Minneapolis, where it was, the Rust Belt kind of manufacturing grain carts. These folks were a little less comfortable having everyone know exactly what they were up to. But when you turn that around and say, don't you want to be able to sign up for stuff if it becomes available? The answer was always yes. So here's an example. Again, real world example of me in our internal organization. We had this thing called Cloudforce London. It's like a mini Dreamforce. Dreamforce is we have a huge event every year in San Francisco, 40, 60,000 people. It's a lot more than that this year. But we do kind of miniaturized versions of those around the world. One of those was in London. CloudForce London, there's the objective. People were signed up. You see down here, 4 people were committed, the contributors. Our success or our goal success, it shows that it was in progress, shows that I'm committed to help achieve this goal. You see the breakdown of some of the activities we were doing towards that goal, right? This is more than just, did I do my job and get promoted? This is me feeling like I'm part of something bigger than myself. The other thing we want to do is incent people to do more by not just pay or public recognition and email blasts, but letting everybody find out things about you. Some people in the industry call this gamification. I actually don't like that term so much because if you're 40-something-year-old, corporate American, that game word doesn't mean a lot to me. It's almost as bad as social. Social sometimes sends people the other direction. Gamification sometimes sends people the other direction. The idea here is visibility and public visibility, transparency. So how do you align the goals and then reward people for achieving them? Here's another real-world example. This is our ability to give badges and receive badges, and my favorite one's the Honey Badger. We created that internally, right? You can create your own. But the idea is, I received a Honey Badger badge because it says you're a pretty badass. That was something somebody created, and they thanked me for something I did. I can't even remember what it was right now. You see the other ones up there that are all aligned around what we do, and down here there's thanks that I've given. I gave somebody a Kanye badge for being a baller. That one actually said, if I was a rapper, I'd write a song about you. That's kind of fun, right? The point is, somebody has their feeling, the public, the employee community, our entire network of employees at Salesforce can see that that person has been badged, has been rewarded and thanked in a public way, and everyone can see it and everyone can do it to each other. And that changes the amount of contribution or alignment you feel. It changes the way you feel about being at work. And ultimately, it's more than just whether you're on a performance plan or not, right? It's more than just did you hit your number or not. Living Social did this. If you don't know who they are, they're kind of the, they do these Groupon type things. They're Groupon's biggest competitor. They are a up-and-coming, not up-and-coming, they have come up and are now a dominant player in the community buying market. And they reward their salespeople and their behavior by amplifying the right things using badges in work.com. And so they've seen wild success with that, and they actually brought it into their culture. I think T.A. McCann mentioned how back in the beginning of his company, it might have been him, I'm sorry if it wasn't, but brought these sales guys together because he thought his company was for salespeople. Was everybody here for that part of the session? Well, that became part of the culture there, right? These folks have created this badging and rewarding and public recognition as part of their culture to incent the right behavior. And it's changed the way that they think about themselves as employees of this company. That's all I have on the connecting and rewarding. This is the Salesforce architecture. In case you weren't aware of what we do, this is everything that we have and everything we offer to our customers to make their customers successful. With that, I'll turn it back over to Brent.